Oh, princesses, behold the complete story. This is a completed ancient romance novel with a 9 rating. First, a like, then read, make it a habit, adjust your posture and slowly savor it. The main story begins. I am the former royal flower, deeply embroiled in power struggles. My legs have lost their strength, leaving me confined within the palace walls. Everyone says that after Princess Bailan lost her ability to walk, her temperament became cold and unapproachable. My dwelling only has a small window, occasionally allowing me to see palace carriages passing by. That day, I was leaning by the window, when the person in the carriage lifted the curtain. Our gazes met. He had clear eyes and delicate features, as if meticulously sculpted. I asked who he was. Instantly, everyone around me seemed stunned, afraid to answer. I sneered, ordering them all dragged away and beheaded. The person in the carriage stopped me. He said his name was Jin. He urged me to cherish life, and not to be so willful and torment myself. Unexpectedly, less than half an hour later, he angered the emperor by saying the wrong thing in his presence, and was demoted to a palace slave. Xiongnu was just a euphemism. His identity was stripped away, transforming him from a graceful scholar into an ambiguous eunuch. Even more absurd, the foolish emperor actually ordered him to take care of my daily life, setting a 1-month deadline. If Princess Bailan couldn't walk on her own within a month, she would be executed. What a joke! I was already a cripple, how could I possibly walk? But the emperor's command was absolute. 3 days later, he still came. That day was the first day of the 12th lunar month. Jin had just undergone the palace punishment, and hadn't had time to recover. His face was as pale as paper. Seeing his arrogant, crane-like demeanor, I was displeased. This criminal was to serve me, this cripple, a perfect match. I remembered first seeing him on the carriage when he advised me to cherish life. Now that he faced hardship, I wanted to see if he could still utter those cold words. That night, he stood guard outside my door, groaning in pain in the middle of the night. It disturbed me, making it hard to sleep, disturbing my dreams. I truly wished to behead him. On the second day of the 12th lunar month, after Jin arrived, life inexplicably became a little more interesting. Everyone else feared me, wishing they could avoid me like the plague. He had just arrived and didn't yet know how formidable I was, so it was perfect for me to torment him in various ways. I gave him an apple one had taken a bite out of, and told him to balance it on his head, so I could practice my swordplay. Swords have no eyes, and using a living person as a target, most people would have knelt and begged for mercy upon hearing this, but Jin was truly different. He playfully tossed the apple in the air and told me, if the princess wants me to put it on my head, then walk over and place it yourself. I was a cripple, he dared to tell me to walk over. He was truly audacious. I slammed the table, and loudly demanded his beheading. Unexpectedly, he strode over, and slapped me, turning my face. He fiercely gripped my neck. The former dynasty's princesses like me, both prisoners. Why are you still not clear-headed? It was the first time I had been hit by a man, a eunuch. I bit my lip, crying and raging, smashing things. No one came to check on me the entire afternoon. Those 2 maids even secretly made fun of it. In the evening, Jin came to deliver food. I grumbled loudly and overturned 10 dishes. He paused, then picked up the leftover food from the ground and put it in his mouth. What are you doing? I complained. This servant comes from a humble background, and cannot bear to see food wasted, he said without raising his head. Jin squatted there, haphazardly ate his meal, wiped his mouth, then wiped the floor clean. As he left, he told me, Princess, you have tough bones. If you don't eat, then starve. My legs were completely crippled, yet he insisted I had tough bones. I truly wished to behead him. On the 3rd day of the 12th lunar month, I woke up hungry in the middle of the night yesterday. My stomach rumbled. I wanted the maids to bring more snacks, but there was no one in the room. Those wretched servants had hidden somewhere again. I called out twice with a hoarse voice, and Jin walked in. He silently poured me a glass of water. I was about to throw it, but then I remembered what happened in the daytime, and feared he wouldn't pour me another. So, I drank it all down with a sour face. After drinking, I said I was hungry. He stood by my bed. Outside the curtains, the food had long been smashed clean by the princess. Jin is not a clever cook, and it's hard to make a meal without ingredients. My voice was loud after clearing my throat. You dog servant. He casually picked at his ear in front of me, and walked out expressionlessly. leaving me to complain on the bed for another incense stick's time. He returned with a bowl of plain noodles. I pointed and slurped down the noodles. I noticed a blister on his thumb from the heat. I retreated back to my bed, found a hairpin from under my pillow, and threw it on the ground. A reward for you. But this morning, he returned the hairpin to me. I was furious. You dog servant, do you despise this princess's reward? He didn't answer directly, but personally placed the hairpin in my hair. A lady should wear a flower to be beautiful. It turned out he had noticed my makeup, and knew I didn't have many pieces of jewelry left. Today, I dutifully ate 3 meals. Honestly, they had no flavor at all, but whenever I was about to lose my temper, Shen Sijin would stare at me with a stern face. I always remembered him slapping me, and then choking my neck. I somewhat hated him, somewhat feared him, and somewhat wanted to behead him. On the 4th day of the 12th lunar month, today passed peacefully. It snowed, my palace didn't use good charcoal, and the smoke always made me cough. I asked Shen Sijin to fan me. He couldn't leave. He was picking out coal slag. If the coal slag is burned, the smoke will be bad, so it's better to remove it. Then I probably won't cough. Today, I talked to him a little more. I asked him what he had said to offend the emperor, but he wouldn't tell me. At night, he sat by my bed and slept. I only had 1 hot water bottle. He was afraid I'd be cold, so he took it out to refill it every 2 hours. This wretched task was too exhausting. No one wanted to do it, so they just let him, a man, reach into my quilt, but I felt a little uncomfortable. After thinking about it carefully, he was a eunuch, so what difference did it make if I was uncomfortable? In the middle of the night, half asleep, he reached in again to retrieve the hot water bottle. My eyes were heavy with sleep, and with annoyance, I fiercely pinched his arm. You dog servant, your hand is on me. He didn't say a word, just let out a low gasp. This person's hands weren't just cold, his body also seemed to be trembling. What's wrong? I asked. He didn't answer. He stood up and took 2 steps, then fell with a thud outside the curtain. His old wounds from the palace punishment hadn't healed, and I kept tormenting him. That night, he finally couldn't bear it anymore. I, in my great mercy, told him which cabinet had the miraculous medicine for stopping bleeding and healing. He forced himself to retrieve the medicine, and said, "Excuse me," as he was about to leave. I called him back. "Apply the medicine right here," I said. Hearing this, he looked at me in astonishment. In the moonlight, his face was deathly pale. I said, "There are no lights anyway. What are you afraid of?" He gave a bitter laugh. "Princess, you truly know how to demean people." Under a cold, white moon, he undressed, turning his back to me to apply the medicine. A fine young master, as graceful as a jade tree, had fallen to such a state. I asked him if he regretted it. He endured the pain, catching his breath, and forced out an answer. Jade can be broken but not change its whiteness. Gold can be cut but not suppress its hardness. For some reason, I snorted coldly. Unfortunately, you are no longer jade or gold, but a eunuch. He was not angered. Instead, he said, "But princess, you are jade and gold." He was mocking me. I was a cripple of a fallen kingdom. How could I be jade and gold? I was angry and wanted to behead him again. On the 5th day of the 12th lunar month, Shen Sijin's spirits were much better today. He even took the initiative to talk to me. He said he hadn't mocked me last night. He said, "As heaven's movement is ever vigorous, so must a gentleman ceaselessly strive for self-improvement. I am still young. As long as I wish, there will be great days ahead." I told him to shut up immediately. I can't even stand up. Self-improvement, my foot, I said. I know if I can't stand up, you'll be executed at the end of the month. But even if you're anxious, you can't lie through your teeth. He shook his head. This servant merely feels that the princess is young and beautiful, and should not be confined to one life, but should go and see the moonlit landscapes. I said, "Forget it. Don't call yourself servant anymore." She said, "Then I'll carry you out to sea." There was a swing in the courtyard. He carried me onto the swing, and pushed me from behind. The swing went higher and higher. I was scared, yet I found it fun, laughing and shouting. When I got tired, the swing stopped. Shen Sijin went back into the room to fetch my bow. I was exceptionally accurate with archery, even if it was a leaf on a tree. If I aimed for one part, I wouldn't hit another. Shen Sijin used to be a civil official. He envied my skill. I said, "Then do you know how my legs were broken? When the emperor usurped the throne, he wanted to shoot me from a high platform, hitting me squarely in the left side of my chest. But this person's heart just happened to be on the right side. He seized the throne, imprisoned me, and had my legs deliberately broken. I had thought of dying, but being constantly watched, seeking death was not easy either. Hearing this, Shin Si-jin suddenly grasped my wrist. Don't die, don't die, live. Only by living is there hope. He still had the leisure to worry about my life or death. There were still 25 days until the end of the month. He should be worrying about his own head. On the 6th day of the 12th lunar month, it was truly cold today, getting colder and colder. When it gets cold, people tend to get lazy. These dog servants were getting lazier and lazier. In the past, they were just too lazy to care for me, too lazy to bring me food, too lazy to bathe me. Even when I cried out for a chamber pot in the middle of the night, they were too lazy to bring it to me. Later, they even became too lazy to give me water. After Shin Si-jin arrived, there was finally a diligent person in the room. That night, I cried out for someone again. He groggily came in to pour me water. I knocked over the water cup, staring at her with tears. He was first confused, then somewhat annoyed, and then finally realized, wait, I'll get the chamber pot. Go away. He spread his arms. How about I carry you out? I told you to go away, but he ignored me and carried me into his arms, reaching to untie my waistband. Don't move. I'll help you. I was afraid. Go call a woman in. He remained silent, feigning deafness. I knew no one would come. I bit and clawed at his shoulder, ordering him to let me go. Humiliation and shame almost consumed me. He silently endured my antics, his back ramrod straight. As he tucked me into bed, he said, Bailwan, I will take care of you. But I said, you dog servant, if this princess ever stands up, the first thing I'll do is kill you. On the 7th day of the 12th lunar month, it was too cold, and my feet developed frostbite. The maid saw them and looked disgusted, saying they were unlucky to follow such an ill-fated master. By the end of the year, every palace received bonuses, and everyone was joyful, but my palace had no master's fortune, so the servants' lives weren't good either. No wonder they hated me so much. Shin Si-jin used his own money to buy a bottle of ointment. He didn't have much money, but because he was educated, he occasionally helped other workers write letters for money. I pulled my feet back, covering my head with the quilt. Keep your own money. This princess doesn't want your charity. He pulled down the quilt, forcefully placing my feet on his thigh. What do I need money for? As a eunuch, am I to marry? I was speechless and muttered, crippled feet won't stand up no matter what miraculous medicine you apply. But he said, Bailwan, if you have a place you want to go, you will be able to stand up. There were too many places I wanted to go. Beautiful mountains and rivers, moonlit landscapes. I wanted to see them all, but now I was a caged bird, a prisoner. I didn't even deserve to dream. He told the maid to help me bathe. The maid pretended not to hear. He said it again. The maid glanced at him, scoffed, Lord Shin, why don't you bathe her yourself? Shin Si-jin glared, his face flushing slightly. There's a distinction between male and female. You're a eunuch. What are you afraid of? At that moment, I had a slingshot nearby. I picked it up and aimed at him. Shin Si-jin looked at me, shook his head, so I put it down. He brought hot water. I only took off my outer garment, and was carried by him into the basin. In the steam from the water, layers of blush spread across his face. I asked him, why are you blushing? He avoided answering, kneeling on the ground. This servant is guilty. I pursed my lips, leaning on the edge of the tub, watching him stand up. I said, this servant dares not. If Shin Si-jin has something he wants, he must stand up. His eyes moved, and he looked up, meeting my gaze. He said, I want to wash my hands and pluck the bright moon. If not for being in a beacon tower, if he wasn't struggling to survive, he actually wanted me, right? But I was no longer the bright moon. I didn't speak, yet he understood my meaning. Princess Bailwan is in my heart, even better than the moon in the sky. After a moment of silence, I said to him, come and wash my hair. At that moment, held in his hands, I was like an eagle tamed only by him. On the 8th day of the 12th lunar month, folks say Laba, the 8th day of the 12th lunar month, your chin will freeze off. It really was cold. Shin Si-jin cooked piping hot laba porridge. I didn't like lotus seeds, so he put in fewer. I loved sugar, so he added more sugar. Laba was a good day. In the past, every laba, I would go admire plum blossoms. But now, there were no plum blossoms in my palace. I said to Shin Si-jin, draw a branch of plum blossoms for me to see. He was silent for a moment, somewhat troubled. Princess, please wait for this servant to get some paper from Woyang. Paper was so expensive that even I, a princess, couldn't afford it. Forget it. I called him back. Shen Sijin, how about I be your drawing paper? You be the brush, and I the canvas. Paint freely. He turned his head in a daze, his gaze trembling. Princess is fond of jesting. This servant is a eunuch. What does it matter? I'm also a cripple. His skillful brushstrokes formed flowers, vivid and lifelike. Wherever his fingertips touched, my skin seemed to genuinely bloom. Between my eyebrows and lips, it was as if ice and snow melted, and spring bloomed, but below my waist, there was no sensation at all. I cried. He wiped away my tears. The plum blossoms here are reserved, just hidden in the snow. Liar. A cripple is a cripple. What hidden in the snow? You're just saying nice things. On the 9th day of the 12th lunar month, I had a terrifying nightmare that night. I dreamt the emperor was covered in blood, with a hole in his left chest. He held a long sword, its tail feather stained red with blood. He stared at me and laughed deeply. Behind him was my country, my generals, my people. My imperial father died before my eyes. He stepped over my imperial father's corpse. He said to me, Princess Bailwan, my heart just happens to be on the right side. Then, somehow, I was tied up. They said, the emperor ordered my legs broken, my tendons severed. I was crippled again. This time, I woke up screaming and crying in my dream. Shen Sijin ran in again. I said, I want to kill someone. I want to kill someone. Shen Sijin said nothing, sitting by my bed all night. He just lent me a hand to hold. Holding his hand, I fell asleep. This hand led me from outside the dream into the dream. This time, I finally shot the arrow to the right. We broke through the siege together, hand in hand. When I woke up, the plum blossoms were still buried in the snow. It was just a big dream. On the 10th day of the 12th lunar month, Shen Sijin had been here for 10 days. There were 20 days left until his death. I couldn't stand up. I knew it, and he knew it. My bones were broken, my tendons severed. Even if Hua Tuo were alive again, he would be powerless to change it. But I didn't feel guilty. Why should I feel guilty? I owed him nothing. Love between a man and a woman is mutual consent. No one owes anyone anything. I asked him, on the day we first met, when he saw me from the carriage, and I said I would behead others. Wasn't he afraid of me then? He said no. Instead, he felt that I was actually afraid of others. I then asked, then, on your first day here, when you hit me, what were you thinking? I wasn't thinking anything. I was just anxious. I wanted you to live well, to stop being so volatile and tormenting yourself, but to live well. He was truly good. Shen Sijin was truly too good a person. Finally, I no longer wanted to behead him. On the 11th day of the 12th lunar month, how quickly time passed. As a cripple, my whole life felt long, and it should have been like years passing slowly. Yet now, time suddenly flew by. Time flies like a white steed swiftly passing a crevice. I tried my best to grasp it, but I couldn't hold on to Shen Sijin. His health had improved a lot. Despite such poor food, he had even gained a little weight. I couldn't bear to see him gain weight, so I started tormenting him again. I constantly demanded that he carry me outside. It had been snowing a lot lately, so the swing couldn't be used. I had Shen Sijin build 2 snowmen. I sat beside him and watched. The taller one was graceful and refined, like him. The shorter one had a stern, cold look, like me. The 2 snowmen stood side by side in the courtyard, braving the wind and snow, looking rather like a pair of star-crossed lovers. I said that by spring, the 2 snowmen would melt into a puddle, hand in hand. How inauspicious. But after saying it, I thought, he wouldn't even live to see spring. He would be beheaded. That day, Shen Sijin also found a small sparrow in the snow. It was already frozen stiff. He took the sparrow back, and warmed it in his embrace. By night, it had recovered and chirped. The room finally had a little more life. I told him to climb onto my bed, so we could watch the little sparrow under the covers. He said that birds see the first person they open their eyes to, as their mother. In this little sparrow's heart, Shen Sijin and I were its father and mother. We, a eunuch and a cripple, actually had the chance to be parents. Heaven wasn't treating us too badly after all. On the 12th day of the 12th lunar month, Shen Sijin was both father and mother, diligently caring for the little sparrow. But I was a hands-off boss. I only asked him to bring it to me to play with. When I remembered, feeding the little sparrow, feeding me, that was Shen Sijin's daily task. I wondered when the little sparrow would be able to fly. Shin Si-jin cared for us so devotedly. At least one of us had to be able to fly out of here. He said we would. Whether it's a sparrow or a white swan, a cage cannot hold a brave bird. On the 13th day of the 12th lunar month, it was too cold during my afternoon nap. I asked Shin Si-jin to warm my hands and feet. The maid burst in without knocking, right into this scene. She feared no one, leaving only a cold laugh. What was she laughing at? Of course, she was laughing at a eunuch and a cripple relying on each other, seeking warmth together. I originally wanted to yell that I would kill her, but when Shin Si-jin was holding me, I felt a little embarrassed to say those words. Words can be terrible. That day, everyone knew about our affair. The princess loves the convicted minister sounded somewhat tragic and beautiful, but the cripple loves the eunuch sounded pitiful no matter how you heard it. But what could be done? Love was already there. Shin Si-jin asked, if I could walk again, where would I most want to go? I said Saibei. By day, climb the mountain to gaze at beacon fires. At dusk, water horses by the Jiacha River. Shin Si-jin wasn't accustomed to the cold of Saibei. He was from Huainan. Plum blossoms in Saibei played on a chong flute. Cassia trees in Huainan whispered in small mountain verses. Now, the plum blossoms in Saibei were buried in the snow, and the cassia trees in Huainan were ravaged by the wind. Unreachable, unobtainable, unfulfilled. On the 14th day of the 12th lunar month, the dog emperor also heard about Shin Si-jin and me. He made it a joke in court, entertaining everyone. Instantly, he and I became the most vulgar laughingstock. The instigator killed my father, my brother destroyed my country, and now he wanted to mock my squalor. The dog emperor ordered some cured meats sent over, wrapped in red cloth. He never bestowed gifts here. This time was an exception, saying Princess Bailan had good news. Like a long drought meeting rain, he wanted to mock Shin Si-jin, and mock me. He wanted to torment everyone who didn't please him, who wouldn't bow to him. But I didn't feel mocked at all. He wasn't wrong. My meeting Shin Si-jin's meeting me, was indeed a dash of red in the human world. This life's greatest joy, like a long drought meeting rain. I tore off a piece of the red cloth used to wrap the cured meats. I said I wanted to marry him. He didn't dare. He had said he wanted to wash his hands and pluck the bright moon, but he was stuck in a beacon tower. I don't care if you're a criminal, if you're a eunuch, if you're a dying man, I don't care. Shin Si-jin, do you or do you not want to marry me? He said nothing, only held me in his arms. On the 15th day of the 12th lunar month, 15 days had passed, and there were still 15 days left. This day was my wedding day. After my legs were broken, I never thought there would be any joy in my life, especially the joy of marriage. I didn't have many good clothes, and my valuable jewelry was long gone. My red veil was the oiled cloth used to wrap cured meats. My wedding dress was an old gown from years ago, but my wedding was the best wedding in the world. My husband was the best husband in the world. No bowing to heaven and earth, as the light was gone. No bowing to elders, as they had long passed. All were omitted. Husband and wife held hands and bowed to each other, sleeping as one, counted as the bridal chamber, wholeheartedly, never parting in this life. To have this one person, what more could I ask for? The sycophantic servants went to spread the word again, bringing new laughter. I expected the dog emperor was laughing uncontrollably again. He said, Si-jin, now you have gotten what you wished for. Don't say I didn't fulfill your wish. On the 16th day of the 12th lunar month, it turned out that Shin Si-jin had fallen to such a state, entirely because of me. He passed by my window, and after a brief meeting with the emperor, he said, Your Majesty, I have a request. What is it? My beloved minister, please grant Princess Bailan to me in marriage. She is a princess of a fallen kingdom. Her legs are crippled, and she can no longer bear children. Why bother, beloved minister? Precisely because of this, I wish to save her and help her escape this plight. Escape this plight? Are you complaining that I spared her life, beloved minister, only to harm her? Court struggles are battles of men. Your Majesty has thus tormented Princess Bailan. This is not the act of a gentleman. Do you know that back then, she refused to submit, and instead drew her bow, seriously injuring me with an arrow? Your Majesty is afraid. You are insolent. Your Majesty. Bailan soared high into the clouds, often accompanying the imperial consort. Though the palace walls may clip her wings, they are destined not to imprison her. Good, good. I want to see how two crippled geese will fly. Shin Si-jin met me once and wanted to marry me. The emperor refused, and punished him with castration. How would two crippled geese fly? After all, undaunted by the cold northern wind, they would fly together, wing to wing. On the 17th day of the 12th lunar month, the little sparrow chirped loudly today. Its wings kept flapping. I wondered if it was about to fly. I told Shinsi-jin. I wanted to try and stand up, but he just smiled, and told me not to trouble myself. Bones can heal, but if tendons are severed, unless a miracle happens, they are ruined. But if I couldn't stand up, what would happen to him? The emperor was cruel and foolish. He would truly behead him. Shinsi-jin was so good, and he was my husband. How could I bear for him to be beheaded? On the 18th day of the 12th lunar month, I asked Shinsi-jin to make me a pair of crutches. He sat on the ground, carving bamboo. After a long time, his hands became numb with cold, so I told him to rest. I warmed his hands. Actually, even with crutches, if one has no strength at all, one still cannot walk. But now, I finally wanted to try. The little sparrow chirped, as if cheering me on, but I couldn't take a single step, falling clumsily to the ground. I said, "What do I do, Shinsi-jin? I can't stand up. I can't stand up." He was still very gentle, advising me to take it slowly. Slowly. It was already the 18th. There were only 12 days left. He touched my hair. He said, "Bailwan, 12 days is enough. 12 days for me to remember you well, for you to remember me well. The book of life and death, the soup of forgetfulness, the path to the underworld, the bridge of helplessness. 12 days, we will walk slowly. That is enough." On the 19th day of the 12th lunar month, I still couldn't stand up.